a double for FormaL.
Sometimes you need someone to step up, and FormaL said, I ain't here to lose this series. Look, going for three, that's FormaL, baby!
The positioning is perfect. He's hitting big shots. I am such a fanboy.
Cap coming in, and it's an overkill. Wow, my God!
Yeah, I remember I'm like 10 years old. My brother's the only one with the Xbox, and I'm like having to go into his room while he's sleeping. I'm setting my alarm as a 10-year-old for like 2 a.m. And I'm going into his room, playing from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., playing Team Snipers with no sound, no mic, nothing, just on his account, in the dark, and just having so much fun. That's just like an insane thought as a 10-year-old to be doing that. You realize like this game is like a masterpiece. Truly a masterclass of video games. And if you weren't part of it, then you weren't part of it. But if you were, then like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it made me fall in love with video games completely. It was just like, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I knew that my passion was here, and I knew that it was just like, it was where I wanted to be.
Sometimes you need someone to step up.
I think they call FormaL the multi-FPS god for a reason.
One of the best shooters, one of the best teammates, and one of the best champions, I think, to ever hold a controller.
I just don't see anybody topping what he has managed to accomplish.
2 games, 2 world championships. Most people dream of being at the top of the pile in 1 game, which they work their whole career for, their whole life for.
The legacy that he's cemented is just being just championship after championship after championship.
He is the FPS god.
He puts pretty much everything that he has into competing.
By the time that this thing is done, FormaL is going to be cemented in the history books of first-person shooters.
My first event was MLG Anaheim 2009. I went when I was like 13 years old. I didn't do too well, but like just the experience of like an old MLG event is just like something that if you didn't experience, you just didn't experience.
Walshy is down there.
Look at your fans!
Earning the right to call themselves champions.
You know, growing up, you see all these people like T-Squared and Walshy and Ogre Twins, and you kind of just like, you want to be them. My first event was definitely a disaster. I got kicked out of the hotel I was staying in. A couple buddies of mine were throwing stuff out the window at the Marriott and ended up hitting a security guard with a milkshake. So before we know it, there's banging on the doors and security guards are kicking us out. My dad has to come get me. It's just a complete disaster. And safe to say I wasn't allowed to go to another event for like a couple years.
What's these?
That's when I like went to like our side and like shouldered it and went to their side.
My very first interaction with Matt, I think he like sent me a friend request and I declined it. And then he sent me a message and he said, why'd you decline it? And I said, I don't know you. And he said, well, get to know me.
This rando kid FormaL who I'd never even heard of just kept killing me over and over.
I remember matching this kid online in the MLG playlist, and he was always just very noticeably skilled and noticeably a nasty sniper.
When you were watching his POV, it was just this insane consistency of reticle placement. When he was sniping, it was always on the head, and he would always snap on and just hit really, really solid shots.
Doing that as a child is crazy. It was very clear from the beginning he was built different.
As he started to succeed, started to win events, he realized that this might be a place where he could do some real damage. And it was unheard of for such a random name in the sense where it's just some online kid to come and make such a big splash on the scene.
When you see FormaL on the server, it's a problem.
Let's go, over, tag, tag. Trust.
Around 2014, there were a couple Halo players that were trying to switch over to Call of Duty, and FormaL being one of them.
It was a really big deal when FormaL switched over to Call of Duty. And he wasn't the only one. Players have made switches back and forth between the two.
I was making the decision to leave Halo just because there weren't really any Halo tournaments anymore. We had the AGLs, which crashed and burned. Halo wasn't really popping. It was Halo 4. Like, it was just a really dark time for Halo, and COD was popping.
FormaL really kind of joined the scene in an explosive way.
The fact that he's able to switch titles so easily is almost unheard of, but honestly, I would even go as far and say it impossible.
He seemed like, I don't know how to word this nicely. He seemed like he had just all the confidence in the world.
It's just like a whole new scene. They didn't really have any respect for me because I was like a Halo pro. But I mean, like slowly but surely, you see me just like start getting better and finding new teammates and just like slowly climbing the ladder.
FormaL was at the time playing for a team called the Envy, and he sent me a DM. He sent me a DM and says, I heard you guys were gonna make a roster move. And this was year 2 of him switching from Halo to Call of Duty. And within a month, he was on the team.
Arguably the biggest roster move in COD history, FormaL and Crim6 joined Nadeshot and Scum. That team, they won so much that we kind of all got used to it.
Once I joined Optic, it was like, yeah, it was for real. Everyone knew who you were. If you stood still for a little bit, there would just be like a line forming, and then you would have to like sign, so you get trapped for like hours.
I don't know if it's like the online era of COD that's kind of like been the final, like, you know, the thing that drained me, like, final, but it's just getting on and screaming every day. It's just like not it for me anymore, man. And I might just need a break from it for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean like a year break, and maybe I'll want to do it again.
Because when you're on Optic and like you're going to a champs, like all eyes are kind of on you. Everyone wants to see you fail, you know. Anytime you lose, it's like, yeah, they let you know it. So it can definitely eat at a person.
Towards the end of his COD career, he just wasn't in love with the games as he once was. And it really, you could tell.
Nothing was going my way, no matter how much time I was putting in, just like wasn't really making a difference. I was losing the passion, and that whole year was just like horrible. You learn a lot about yourself, and you learn a lot about like, you know, what exactly you want to keep doing. If you're gonna keep doing it like this, and what's the point? And that's kind of where I took a step back from Call of Duty in 2021. I was kind of realizing like I was not really like a detriment to my team, but I definitely wasn't the best version of myself. And I realized that I lost the passion for COD and just kind of needed to take a break and just kind of find myself again.
It was wild to hear that Matt was retiring. We're still at a time in esports where we don't know how many years each player might have, but it felt like with FormaL that there was a lot more gas in the tank.
When you go through any like trials, like I've seen a lot of situations. I've seen a lot of like, you know, people come and go. I've seen careers crash and burn, and like I don't want that to happen to myself. So like kind of just reflect, and you realize like what steps did I take to get to this spot? What steps do I have to take to get out of it? You learn a lot about yourself, and you kind of see what you're made of, and see if you're really, you know, down to get into it and like fix it. But like this is like the dream that everyone like kind of strives for, you know, as a kid, like especially nowadays, like playing video games for a living is like a dream. So I was down to just like buckle in and, you know, just like fix it.
So FormaL announces he's coming back.
So when we had the rumors about FormaL coming back, I'm not gonna lie, I think there was a smile on everyone's face. Just a little like, this is time.
Everyone is talking about FormaL. He is coming back to Halo for the first time, and he is frying. I mean, the damage that he was putting up in some of these like AIDS lobbies that he was in was absurd.
And he's starting to be answered. There's one, there's two. FormaL's back, baby.
Before we know it, we've won back to back to back, and it's like all that doubt's gone, and you know, like everyone's kind of realizing like this is like kind of insane.
You know, you need that type of veteran experience and that type of player that keeps the morale high, that keeps you focused, you know, lets you know that everything's okay if something goes wrong.
Matt really had that leadership. He had that X factor, especially being a season champion. He just knew what it took in game and out of game to kind of talk to us and coach us on those aspects.
What happens whenever he does love a game? He immediately is one of the best.
There's a lot of people who have a lot of wins, but there's only a few, I would say, that earned every single win in a dominant fashion.
Like it was gonna be done. FormaL for the killing spree. Hits the brain from the top, making a double kill. Will he get the trip here?
If you look at the trajectory of his career, he plays what he wants to play, and when he wants to play it, he's the best.
Pushing aggressively as it's a triple now for FormaL. He wants more! Give it to him!
when he won that world championship and fulfilled what he said he wanted to do, you can see how much it meant to him. He got back to the top and I think proved to not only the fans, but himself that it was the right decision to make to come back.
FormaL's legacy is absolutely ridiculous.
He has a lot of respect in the esports community.
I mean, it's a crazy accolade, and not a lot of people have it for a reason.
I mean, that's the thing the stories are made of.
Halo is always gonna have a special place to me just because of like the years of like 2007 to like 2011. It was just like, it just felt like a dream. It felt like I was living in Fantasyland, like I was just off in La La Land by myself, just like living every day to like the fullest, like in Halo. Like, it sounds kind of weird to say, but it was truly just like a really impactful time in my life.
And I think for a lot of people, Halo has been that foundation as an FPS for 2 decades now, essentially. And I think that's why Halo really just runs deep.
It's obvious to me how much FormaL loves Halo and how dear it is to his heart. You know, even after he switched over to another title, he came back to Halo because it's really like his one true love when it comes to esports. You know, FormaL and Halo go hand in hand.
What this whole journey has done is just given purpose to my life. I've always, appreciated these times, even in the dark times and the bad times. You still appreciate what it is, and like I wouldn't want to change anything for the world.